Now, Bruce, just look right into the camera lens right here and tell us your name, your age, and where you were born.
My last name is Lee, Bruce Lee. I was born in San Francisco in 1940. I'm 24 right now.
And you worked in motion pictures in Hong Kong?
Yes, since I was around 6 years old.
And when did you leave Hong Kong?
1959, when I was 18.
I see. Now look over to me, Bruce, as we talk. I understand you just had a baby boy?
Yeah.
And you've lost a little sleep over it, have you?
3 nights.
And tell the crew what time they shoot the pictures in Hong Kong.
Well, it's mostly in the morning because it's kind of noisy in Hong Kong, you know, around 3 million people there. And so every time when you have picture, it's mostly, say, around 12 a.m. to 5 a.m. in the morning.
I see. They'd love that there. And you went to college in the United States?
Yes.
And what did you study?
Philosophy.
I see. Now, you told me earlier today that karate and jiu-jitsu are not the most powerful of the best forms of Oriental fighting. What is the most powerful of the best form?
Well, it's bad to say the best, but in my opinion, I think Kung Fu is pretty good.
Would you tell us a little bit about Kung Fu?
Well, Kung Fu is originated in China. It is the ancestor of karate and jiu-jitsu. It's more of a complete system, and it's more fluid. By that I mean it's more flowing. There is continuity in movement instead of one movement, two movement, and then stop.
Would you look right into the camera lens and explain the principle of the glass of water as it applies to Kung Fu?
Well, Kung Fu, the best example would be a glass of water. Why? Because water is the softest substance in the world, but yet it can penetrate the hardest rock or anything, granite, you name it. Water also is insubstantial. By that I mean you cannot grasp hold of it. You cannot punch it and hurt it. So every Kung Fu man is trying to do that, to be soft like water and flexible and adapt itself to the opponent.
I see. What's the difference between a Kung Fu punch and a karate punch?
Well, the karate punch is like an iron bar, wham! A Kung Fu punch is like an iron chain with an iron ball attached to the end, and it goes whang, and it hurt inside.
Okay. Now we're going to cut, and in just a second we'll have you stand up and show us some Kung Fu and some movements in Kung Fu.
Okay.
Cut.
Test X2, take 1.
Speed. Now look directly into the camera, Bruce. Directly at it. And now give me a 3/4 this way. And hold it. And give me a profile that way, all the way. Good. Hold it. Now come back to a profile on the other side. And hold that. Give me a 3/4 on that side. And then give me right into the camera again. All right. Now the camera will pull back. And Bruce, first show me the movements in the classical Chinese theater.
Classical Chinese
Well,
theater.
you know what we talked about in the office. How they walk and how they start to move.
Well, in Chinese opera, they have the warrior and then the scholar. The way the warrior walk will be something like this. Walking this way, straight, come out, bend, straight, and then walk out again. An ordinary scholar would be just like a female, a weakling, 90 pounds in Child Atlas. You'll be just walking, you know, like a girl, real, shoulder up and everything.
So by the way they walk, you can immediately tell who they are.
Right, what character they represent.
Now, show us some Kung Fu movements.
Well, it is hard to show it alone, but I will try to do my best.
All right, maybe one of the fellows will walk in. You want to walk
Yeah,
in?
it would be...
Go ahead.
Go ahead.
Go ahead.
Come on, lady.
Okay. Although accidents do happen, but, you know... There are various kinds of strike. It depends on where you hit and what weapon you will be using. To the eyes, you would use fingers. Don't worry. I will be. To the eyes. Or straight at the face. From the waist, everything on.
Hold it just a minute. Let's move this gentleman around this way so you're doing it more into the camera. Okay,
Okay.
swell.
And then there is band arm strike using the waist again into a back fist.
And let's have the assistant director back up just a way. Okay, go ahead. Continue.
And then, of course, Kung Fu is very sneaky. You know, the Chinese, they always hit low. From high, go back to the groin. Don't worry.
Now turn around the other way, would you, Bruce?
Okay.
Yeah. And,
Would you want him?
yes. Oh, cross
These are
camera
just
forward.
natural reactions.
That's
Right. That is
Right.
natural.
Right into the camera. Cheat into the camera a little bit and show this again.
All right.
Go ahead.
There is the finger jab. There is the punch. There is the back fist and then low. Of course, then they use leg straight at the groin or come up. Or, if I can back up a little bit, they start back from here and then come back.
All right.
It's kind of worry.
He has nothing to worry about. Now, once again, show us how a good Kung Fu man would very coolly handle it and walk away, rather than get involved in a series of actions.
Cut it. Sound.
Okay.
Test X2, take 2.
Now, Bruce, so that we can clearly see what you're doing this time, we'll face the fact that there's nobody there. Show me now the difference between jiu-jitsu, which is long and involved, and Kung Fu, which is very quick if you have an opponent.
All right, for instance, you will read it in a book, in a magazine and everything, that when somebody grab you, you will first do this, and then this, and then thousands of steps before you do a single thing. Of course, these kind of magazine would teach you to be feared by your enemies and admired by your friends and everything. See? But in Kung Fu, it always involves a very fast motion. Like, for instance, a guy grabbing your hand. It's not the idea to do so many steps. Step him right on the instep. He'll let go. This is what we mean by simplicity. Same thing in striking and in everything. It has to be based on a very minimum motion, so that everything would be directly expressed. One motion, and he's gone. Doing it gracefully, not to go yelling and jumping all over him, but to do it. Excuse me. Listen.
Okay, now show me once again just a few movements there.
Well, Kung Fu can be practiced alone or with a partner. Practicing alone, they involve forms. Some imitate a crane, a monkey, a praying mantis. This is a crane form. Let's start off. This is one of the movement involved.
Show us one more movement and then we'll be all through.
Okay, I'm glad to hear that. They have the tiger that start like a tiger, using claw to claw the face, or the beak of the crane to the eyes. This is some of the movement involved.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
This is the Pierre Burton Show. Bruce Lee, Mandarin Superstar, production 1892, a recording December 9th, 1971, in Hong Kong.
Bruce Lee faces a real dilemma. He's on the verge of stardom in the United States with a projected TV series on the horizon, but he's just achieved superstardom as a film actor here in Hong Kong. So what does he choose, the East or the West? It's the kind of problem most budding movie actors would welcome.
It's the Pierre Burton Show, the program that comes to you from the major capitals of the world. This edition comes to you from Hong Kong. And Pierre's guest is the man who taught karate, judo, and Chinese boxing to James Garner, Steve McQueen, Lee Marvin, and James Coburn. The newest Mandarin superstar, known in the West for his appearances in Batman, The Green Hornet, Ironside, and Longstreet. His name is Bruce Lee, and he doesn't even speak Mandarin. And here's Pierre.
Well, how can you play in Mandarin movies if you don't even speak Mandarin? How do you do that?
Well, first of all, I speak only Cantonese.
Yeah.
So, I mean, there is quite a difference as far as pronunciation and things like that go.
So somebody else's voice is used, right? For
Definitely, definitely.
You just make the words. Doesn't that sound strange when you go to the movies, especially in Hong Kong, in your own town, and you see yourself with somebody else's voice?
Well, not really, you see, because most of the Mandarin picture done here are dubbed anyway.
They're dubbed anyway?
Anyway, I mean, disregard. I mean, they shoot without sound. So it doesn't, make any difference.
Your lips never quite make the right words, do they?
Well, that's where the difficulty lies, you see. I mean, in order to, because the Cantonese have a different way of saying things, different from the Mandarin.
Yeah.
So I have to find, something similar to that and keep a kind of a feeling going behind that. Something that matching the Mandarin deal.
Like the
Does
old
it
silent
sound complicated?
days. Like the old silent days. But I gather in the movies made here, the dialogue is pretty stilted anyway.
Yeah, I agree with you. I mean, see, to me, a motion picture is motion.
Yeah.
I mean, you got to keep the dialogue down to the minimum.
Did you look at many Mandarin movies before you started playing in the first one?
Yes.
What did you think of them when you saw them?
Quality-wise, I mean, I have to admit that it's not quite up to the standard. However, it is growing, and it is getting higher and higher and going toward that standard, that what I would term quality.
They say the secret of your success in that movie, The Big Boss, which was such a success, you rocketed you to stardom in Asia, was that you did your own fighting. As an expert in the various martial arts in China, what did you think of the fighting that you saw in the movies that you studied before you became a star?
Well, I mean, definitely in the beginning, I had no intention or whatsoever that what I was practicing and what I'm still practicing now would lead to this to begin with. But martial art has a very, very deep meaning as far as my life is concerned, because as an actor, as a martial artist, as a human being, all these I have learned from martial art.
Maybe for our audience who doesn't know what it means, you might explain exactly what you mean by martial art.
Right. Martial art include all the combative arts like karate or karate, judo, Chinese kung fu or Chinese boxing, whatever you call it. All those. You see, like Aikido, Korean, I can go on and on and on. But it's a combative form of fighting. I mean, it's not, some of them became sport, but some of them are still not. I mean, they use, for instance, kicking to the groin, jabbing fingers at the eyes, and things like that.
No wonder you're successful in the Chinese movies. They're full of this kind of action anyway. They needed a guy like you could...
Violence, man.
So you didn't have to use a double when you moved into the motion picture world here. You did it all yourself.
Right.
Can you break 5 or 6 pieces of wood with your hand or your foot?
I'll probably break my hand and foot.
But tell me a little bit... you set up a school in Hollywood, didn't you, for people like James Garner and Steve McQueen and the others?
Yes.
Why would they want to learn Chinese martial art? Because of a movie role?
Not really. I mean, most of them, you see, to me, at least the way that when I teach it, all type of knowledge ultimately means self-knowledge. So therefore, they are coming in to, and ask me to teach them not so much of how to defend themselves or how to do somebody in. Rather, they want to learn to express themselves through some movement, be it anger, be it determination, or whatsoever. So in other words, what I'm saying, therefore, is that he is paying me to show him in combative form the art of expressing the human body.
Which is acting, in a sense, isn't it?
Well,
or it would be a useful tool for an actor to have.
It's, it might sound too philosophical, but it's acting or acting unacting. If
You've lost me.
I have, right? So what I'm saying, actually, you see, it's a combination of both. Here it is the natural instinct, and here is control. You are to combine the two in harmony. Not, if you have one to the extreme, you will be very unscientific. If you have another to the extreme, you become all of a sudden a mechanical man, no longer a human being. So it is a successful combination of both. So therefore, it is not only, therefore it's not pure naturalness or unnaturalness. The ideal is unnatural naturalness or natural unnaturalness.
Yin yang, eh?
Right, man, that's it.
One of your students, James Coburn, played in a movie called Iron Man Flint, in which he used karate. Is that what he learned from you?
He learned it after.
Oh, he went
yeah.
After he played in Iron Man.
Right. You see, actually, I do not teach, karate because I do not believe in styles anymore. I do not believe that there is such thing as like Chinese way of fighting or the Japanese way of fighting or whatever way of fighting, because unless human beings have 3 arms and 4 legs, we will have a different form of fighting. But basically, we have only 2 hands and 2 feet. So styles tends to not only separate man, because they have their own doctrines, and then the doctrine became the gospel truth, that you cannot change, But if you do not have styles, if you just say, well, here I am, as a human being, how can I express myself totally and completely? Now, that way, you won't create a style, because style is a crystallization, that way, it's a process of continuing growth.
You talk about Chinese boxing. How does it differ from, say, our kind of boxing?
Well, first, we use the feet.
That's
and then we use the elbow. And
you use the thumb, too?
You name it, man. We
use it all.
You have to, you see, because, that is the expression of the human body. Everything, not just the hand. And when you're talking about combat, well, if it is a sport, now you're talking about something else. You have regulations, you have rules. But when you're talking about fighting as it is,
no rules.
With no rules.
Not real fighting.
Well, then, baby, you better train every part of your body. And when you do punch, now I'm leaning forward a little bit, hoping not to hurt any camera angle. You got to put the whole hip into it and snap it and get all your energy in there and make this into a weapon.
I don't want to tangle you in any dark path. that right now. You came at me pretty fast there. What is the difference between Chinese boxing and what we see these young men doing at 8 o'clock every morning on the rooftops in the parks called shadow boxing, which they're always...
Well, actually, you see, that is part of Chinese boxing.
It is.
There are so many schools.
Everybody here seems to be, going like this all the time.
Well, that's good. I'm very glad. I'm very glad to see that, because at least somebody is caring for their own body, right?
Yeah.
That's a good sign. Well, it's a kind of a slow form of exercise, which is called Tai Chi Chuan. I'm speaking Mandarin just now.
Yeah.
Cantonese Tai Chi Chuan, okay?
I see.
And it's more of an exercise for the elderly, not so much for the young.
Give me a demonstration. Show me. Can you do a little bit of it? Just so
the hand-wise is very slow.
Oh, is it?
and you push it out, but all the time you are keeping the continuity going. Bending, stretching, everything. Suppose, you just keep it moving.
It's like a ballet dancer there.
Yeah, it is. To them, you see, the idea is running water never grows stale. So you got to just keep on flowing.
Of all your students, famous, James Garner, Steve McQueen, Lee Marvin, James Coburn, Roman Polanski, which was the best? Who adapted best to this Oriental form of exercise and defense?
Well, depending, okay? Now, as a fighter, Steve McQueen, now, he is good in that department because that son of a gun got the toughness in him.
Yeah. You see it on the screen.
He would say, all right, baby, here I am, man. Mm-hmm. And he'll do it.
Yeah.
Now, James Coburn is a peace-loving man.
Yeah, I met him.
Right? You've met him. He's really, really nice. Super mellow and all that. Now, he appreciates the philosophical part of it. Therefore, his understanding of it is deeper than Steve. So it's really hard to say. You see what I'm saying now?
I see.
It's different. So that's, depending on what you see in it.
Interesting. We don't, in our world, and haven't since the days of the Greeks who did, combined philosophy and art with sport. But quite clearly, the Oriental attitude is that the three are facets of the same things.
Man, listen, you see, really, to me, ultimately, martial art means honestly expressing yourself. Now, it is very difficult to do. It is easy for me to put on a show and be cocky and be flooded with a cocky feeling and then feel like pretty cool and all that. Or I can make all kinds of phony things, you see what I mean? Blinded by it. Or I can show you some really fancy movement. But to express oneself honestly, not lying to oneself, and to express myself honestly, that, my friend, is very hard to do. And you have to train. You have to keep your reflexes so that when you want it, it's there. When you want to move, you're moving. And when you move, you are determined to move. Not taking 1 inch, not anything less than that. If I want to punch, I'm going to do it, man, and I'm going to do it, you see. So, so that is the type of thing you have to train yourself into it, to become one with the, you think?
Yeah, this is very un-Western, this attitude. I want to ask you about your movie and TV career, but first we'll take a break. Then I'll be back with Bruce Lee. I've been talking to Bruce Lee mainly about the Chinese martial arts, which include things like Chinese boxing, karate, and judo, which is what he taught when he was in Hollywood. After he left the University of Washington, where he studied, of all things, philosophy, if you can believe that. He did, but that, perhaps you understand why the two go together from the first half of this program. And you can perhaps understand how he got into films. He knew a lot of actors, but I'm told that you got the job on the Green Hornet, where you played Kato the chauffeur, mainly because you're the only Chinese-looking guy who could pronounce the name of the leading character, Britt Reed.
I meant that as a joke, of course. And it's a heck of a name, man.
Yeah.
Every time I said it at that time, I was super conscious. Really now, that's another interesting thing, huh? Let's say if you learn to speak Chinese.
Yeah.
And it's it's not difficult to learn and speak the word. The hard thing, the difficult thing, it's behind what is the meaning, what brought on the expression and feelings behind those words. Like when I first arrived in the United States, and I look at a Caucasian, and I really would not know whether he was putting me on or is he really angry, because we have different way of reacting to it. See, those are the difficult things, you see.
It's almost as if you came upon a strange race where a smile didn't mean what it does to us. In fact, a smile doesn't always mean the same, does it?
Of course not.
Yeah, I just thought of that. Tell me about the big break when you played in Longstreet. I must tell the audience that
that's it.
Bruce Lee had a bit part or a supporting role in the Longstreet series, and this had an enormous effect on the audience. What was it?
Well, you see, the title of that particular episode of Longstreet is called The Way of the Intercepting Fist. Now, I think the successful ingredient in it was because I was being Bruce Lee.
Yourself.
Myself, right. And did that part, just express myself, like I say, honestly express myself at that time. And because of that, I brought, favorable mentioning in, like, New York Times, which says, like, the Chinaman, who incidentally came off quite convincingly enough to earn himself a television series, and so on and so on and so forth.
Can you remember the lines by Sterling Siliphant, the key lines?
He's one of my students, you know that?
Was he too?
Yes.
You've had everybody as your student. But you read, there were some lines that express your philosophy. I don't know if you remember them or not.
I remember that.
Let's hear.
This is what it is, okay?
You're talking to Longstreet, played by James Francesca.
I said, empty your mind. Be formless, shapeless, like water. Now, you put water into a cup, it becomes the cup. You put water into a bottle, it becomes the bottle. You put it in a teapot, it becomes the teapot. Now, water can flow, or it can crash. Be water, my friend. Like that, you see?
Yeah, I see. I get the idea. I get the power behind it. So, now, two things have happened. First, there's a pretty good chance that you'll get a TV series in the States called The Warriors, in which you use what? The martial arts in a Western setting?
That was the original idea. Now, Paramount, I did Longstreet for Paramount, and Paramount wants me to be in a television series. On the other hand, Warner Brother wants me to be in another one, but both of them, I think, they want me to be in a modernized type of a thing. And they think that Western idea is out.
But
whereas
you want to do the Western, eh?
I want, because you see, how else can you justify all these punching and kicking and violence except in that period of the West? In nowadays, you don't go around on the street kicking people or punching people. Because if you do, that's it. I don't care how good you are,
But this is true also of the Chinese dramas, which are mainly costume dramas. They're all full of blood and gore over here.
You mean here? Yeah. Well, unfortunately, you see, I hope that the picture I am in would either explain why the violence was done, whether right or wrong or whatnot. But unfortunately, pictures, most of them here, are done mainly just for the sake of violence. You know what I mean? Like, fighting for 30 minutes, get stabbed 50 times.
But I'm fascinated. Let me give you your microphone back. I'm fascinated that you came back.
I am a martial artist.
You came back to Hong Kong on the verge of success in Hollywood and full of it. And suddenly, on the strength of one picture, you become a superstar. Everybody knows you. You have to change your phone number. You get mobbed in the streets. Now, what are you going to do? Are you going to be able to live in both worlds? Are you going to be a superstar here, or one in the States, or both?
Well, let me say this. First of all, the word superstar really turned me off, and I'll tell you why. Because the word star, man, is an illusion. It's something what the public calls you. You should look upon oneself as an actor, man. You would be very pleased if somebody say, hey, man, you are a super actor. It is much better than, superstar.
Yeah, therefore, you've got to admit that you are a superstar. You're not going to, if you're going to give me the truth.
I'm honestly saying this, okay? Yes, I have been very successful.
Yeah.
Okay? But I think the word star I do not look upon myself as a star. I really don't. Believe me, man, when I say it. I'm not saying it because
what are you going to do? Let's get back to the question.
Okay.
Are you going to stay in Hong Kong and be famous? Or are you going to go to the United States and be famous? Or are you going to try and eat your cake and have it too?
I am going to do both because, you see, I have already made up my mind that in the United States, I think something about the Oriental, the true Oriental should be shown.
Hollywood sure as heck hasn't.
You better believe it, man. It's always that pigtail and bouncing around, chop, with the eyes slant and all that. And I think that's very, very out of
Is it true that you were the first job you had was being cast as Charlie Chan's number one
Yeah,
boy?
number one son, yeah. No,
They never made a movie.
No. They were gonna make it into like a new Chinese James Bond type of a thing.
I see.
Now that, the old man Chan is dead, Charlie is dead, and his son
I
is
see.
carrying on.
But they didn't do that.
Batman came along, you see, because,
that's
and then everything was started to be going into that, that kind
Green
of
Hornet. Which you were in. But
by the way, I did a really terrible job in that, I have to say.
Really? You didn't like yourself in Green Hornet? I didn't see it. Let me ask you, however, about the problems that you face as a Chinese hero in an American series. Have people come up in the industry and said, well, we don't know how the audience are going to take a non-American?
Well, such question has been raised. In fact, it is being discussed, and that is why The Warrior is not going to be on.
I see.
You see, because unfortunately, such thing does exist in this world. You see, like, I don't know, certain part of the country, right, where like they think that business-wise it's a risk. And I don't blame them, I mean, in the same way, it's like in Hong Kong, if a foreigner come and became a star, if I were the man with the money, I probably would have my own worry of whether or not the acceptance would be there. But that's all right, because if you honestly express yourself, it doesn't matter, see? Because
Are you, how about the other side of the coin? Is it possible that you are, I mean, you're fairly hip and fairly Americanized. Are you too Western for Oriental audiences, do you think?
Oh man, like, how? I have been criticized for that.
You have, eh?
Oh,
I would
yes,
think
definitely. Well, let me say this. When I do the Chinese film, I'll try my best not to be as American as I, have been adjusted to for the last 12 years in the States. But when I go back to the States, it seems to be the other way around. You know
You're
what
too
I mean?
exotic, eh?
Yeah, man. I mean, they're trying to get me to do too many things that are really for the sake of being exotic. You understand what I'm trying to say?
Oh, sure.
So it's really, I mean, it's
when you live in both worlds, it brings its problems as well as its advantages, and you've got both. Time to go to a commercial. I'll be back in a moment with Bruce Lee. Let me ask you whether the change in attitude on the part of the Nixon administration towards China has helped your chances of starring in an American TV series.
Well, first of all, this happened before that.
Yeah.
But I do think that things of Chinese will be quite interesting for the next few years. I mean, not that I'm politically, inclining toward anything.
No, I understand that. I'm just wondering.
But I mean, once the opening of China, that it will bring more understanding.
Yeah.
More things that are, like different, and maybe in the contrast of comparison, some new thing might grow. So therefore, I mean, it's a very rich period to be in. I mean, like if I were born, let's say, 40 years ago.
Yeah.
If I have a thought in my mind, I said, boy, I'm going to star in a movie or star in a television series in America. Well, that might be a vague dream, but I think right now, maybe, man.
You still think of yourself Chinese, or do you ever think of yourself as North American?
You know what I want to think of myself? As a human being. Because, I mean, I don't want to sound like, as Confucius say, but under the sky, under the heaven, man, there is but one family. It just so happened, man, that people are different.
Okay, we got to go. Thank you, Bruce Lee, for coming here. Thank you for
Pierre.
watching.
Thank you.
You've been watching Bruce Lee on The Pierre Burton Show, a half-hour program of conversation, opinion, and debate. This is Bernard Cowan speaking.
Bruce, as a screen tough guy, you're going to have to suffer what all movie heroes suffered. Challenges from exhibitionists and nuts asking you to fight, challenging you to fight. It's already begun to happen, hasn't it?
Yes, it has.
How do you deal with it?
When I first learned martial arts, I too have challenged many established instructors. And of course, some other challenging me also. But what I have learned is that challenging means one thing, is that what is your reaction to it? How does it get you? Now, if you are secure within yourself, you treat it very, very, very lightly, because you ask yourself now, am I really afraid of that man? Or is that man, do I have any doubt within me that he's going to get me? But if I do not have such doubt, and if I do not have such fear, I would certainly treat it very lightly, just as today the rain is going on strong, but tomorrow maybe the sun is going to come out again. I mean, it's like that type of a thing.
Of course, they can't lose by challenging you. Even if they lose, they get the publicity of being a guy who actually fought.
Well, let's face it. I mean, in Hong Kong, can you have a fight? I mean, a no-hold-bar fight. Is it a legal thing? It isn't, is it? And to me, you see, a lot of things, I mean, you know, like challenging and all that, I am the last to know. I am always the last to know, man. I mean, I always find out from newspapers, from reporters, before I personally realize what the hell is happening.
Bruce, you were teaching martial arts in the States, and
yes.
two of your students were Steve McQueen and James Coburn. Did you find them tough people, the way they're portrayed on the screen?
Well, first of all, James Coburn, definitely, is not a fighter. Lover, yes. I mean, he's really a super nice guy. I mean, not only that, he's a very peaceful man. He learned martial art because he finds that it is a very, very, it is like a mirror to reflect himself. You know what I mean? I mean, like, I personally believe that all type of knowledge, I don't care what it is, ultimately means self-knowledge. And that's what he is after. Now, Steve is very uptight. Steve is very high-strung, you know. Now, Steve, he can be a very good martial artist. But I hope that martial art would cool him down a little bit. Maybe make him a little bit more mellower and be more peaceful, like Jim.
Did it achieve that, his time with you? Did you feel that perhaps he learned something from you?
No, definitely not yet. First, because of shooting schedule and all that, I mean, he cannot have it on a regular basis. And secondly, he is still on the level right now of enjoying it as an excitement, like his motorcycle and his sports car, you know. Some for release of his whatever, anger, whatever, you name it.
Bruce, how much of your screen personality is really you? I mean, you teach martial arts, so you're obviously very good at it. But of course, teachers are not always the best exponents or practitioners.
Right.
Are you able to take care of yourself, would you say?
I will answer it, first of all, with a joke, if you don't mind. Oftentimes people come up and say, hey, Bruce, are you really that good? I said, well, if I tell you I'm good, probably you will say I'm boasting. But if I tell you I'm no good, you know I'm lying. But, all right, going back to be truthful with you, let's just put it this way. I have no fear of opponent in front of me, but I am very self-sufficient, that they do not bother me. And that should I fight, should I do anything, I have made up my mind, and that's it, baby. You better kill me before.
Bruce, in The Big Boss, you play a man who's very slow to anger.
Yes.
He's shy, diffident. You even stay out of fights in the early scenes because of a promise you made to your mother.
Yes.
Is that a little bit like you, or is this just a screen personality?
This is definitely a screen personality because as a person, one thing that I have definitely learned, and my life, it seems like it's a life of self-examination and self-peeling of myself bit by bit, day by day, is that I do have a bad temper, a violent temper, in fact. So that is definitely, some people that I am portraying, not Bruce Lee as he is.
Well, as well as being an exceptionally successful film in terms of finance, it grossed more than any other pictures ever done in Hong Kong. The Big Boss does show some very explicit sex scenes, doesn't it? What's your reaction to being in bed with a lovely young movie star in front of the whole studio crew? Does it intimidate you? Does it worry you at all?
Well, it certainly would not intimidate me, I can tell you that. Well, it's all right as long as the script justifies it. But I definitely do not agree to put something in there just for the heck of it because it is an exploitation. Like, for instance, when I start shooting The Big Boss, the first question was asked, hey man, how many thousands of feet of films, my English is getting terrible now, is it going to be? My reaction is that, first of all, why do I start fighting? You see what I'm saying?
Yeah, motivation.
Definitely. You see, but it seems like to be the thing now that they go for blood, sex, just merely for the sake of sex and merely for the sake of blood.
May I ask you a question that's been puzzling me since I saw the film?
Yeah.
At the stage where you decide you're going to get revenge, and
yes,
that's obviously leading up to the climax,
right,
you suddenly decide to go off and make love to a girlfriend in a bordello.
Yeah.
What's the motivation for that?
Now, the way I look at that, that was a suggestion of the director. And I accept it in such a way, and that is him being a very simple man, when all of a sudden he made up his mind that he's going to go and either die, either kill or be killed, right? So he walked past by. It's a kind of a sudden thing of human being. That a thought just occurred, well, doggone it, man, such is the basic need of a human being. I might as well enjoy it, man, before I kick the bucket, like that type of an attitude. You cannot say it's just an occurrence,
I think you'd probably agree, Bruce, that
yes,
the thing that's limited the appeal of Chinese films to Western audiences is that it's very unusual to find a Chinese actor who can act. And when I say that, I mean act in a Western style, in a manner that would make non-Chinese pay money to see them. You seem to have crossed that barrier. How do you think you've achieved it? Do you think it has to do with your time in the United States?
Oh,
You
yes,
studied there, didn't you?
Yes, it definitely has, because when I first arrived there, I did the Green Hornet, television series back in '65. And as I look around, man, I saw a lot of human beings. And as I look at myself, I was the only robot there. Because I was not being myself, and I'm trying to accumulate external security, external technique, the way to move my arm, but never to ask and say what Bruce Lee would have done if, the word if, such a thing happened to me. When I look around, I always learn something, and that is to be always yourself. And to express yourself, to have faith in yourself. Do not go out and look for a successful personality and duplicate him. Now, that seems to me that is the prevalent thing happening in Hong Kong. Like they always copy mannerisms, but they never start from the very root of his being, and that is, how can I be me? You see, I never believed the word star. That's an illusion, man. That's something public calls you. You see? And when you become successful, when you become famous, it's very, very easily to be blinded by all these happenings. Everybody come up to you as Mr. Lee. When you have long hair, they'll say, hey man, that's in, man, baby, that's the in thing. But if you have no name, they'll say, Boy, look at that disgusting juvenile delinquent. I mean, too many people are yes, yes, yes to you all the time, you see. So unless you really at that time have gone through quite a lot and understand what life is about, and that right now, man, some game is happening, and realizing such that is a game, fine and dandy, then it's all right. But most people tend to be blinded by it because, I mean, if things are repeated too many times, you believe in it and it becomes a habit.
The danger is believing the public impression of you,
That's
isn't
right,
it?
man.
Your father warned you about the bad things in show business.
Yes.
Have you met them, too?
Oh.
Apart from the illusion.
I mean, of course.
You seem to have come out of it remarkably well.
Well, let me put it this way. To be honest and all that, I am not as bad as some of them. But I definitely am not saying that I am a saint. Okay?
Could we go back to the fighting? Because,
Yes.
like it or not, it's the thing that you're mainly identified with
Yes.
at this moment. You know a number of
Unfortunately.
styles of fighting, karate, judo, Chinese boxing.
Yes.
And it's a question you must have been asked hundreds of times before.
Yes.
Which do you think is the most effective?
You see, my answer to that is this. There is no such thing as an effective segment of a totality. By that I mean, I personally do not believe in the word style. Why? Because unless there are human beings with 3 arms and 4 legs, unless we have other group of beings on earth that are structurally different from us, then there might be a different style of fighting. Now, why is that? Because we have 2 hands and 2 legs now. The important thing is how can we use it to the maximum? In terms of path, well, straight line, curved line, round lines, they might be slow, but depending on the circumstances, sometimes that might not be slow. And in terms of legs, you can kick up straight, same thing, right? Physically, how can I be so well coordinated? That means you have to be an athlete. That means you gotta have jogging and all this basic ingredient, right? Now, and after all that, then you ask yourself, how can you honestly express yourself at that moment? And being yourself, when you punch, you really want to punch. Not you want to punch because trying to avoid not getting hit, but to really be in with it and express yourself. Now that is to me the most important thing, and that is how can I, in the process of learning how to use my body, to understand myself. Now the unfortunate thing is, now there's boxing, which use hands, judo, which is throwing. Now I'm not putting them down, mind you, but I'm saying one thing that is the bad thing, and that is, because of styles, people are separated. They are not united together because styles became law, man. But the original founder of the style started out with hypotheses. But now it has become the gospel truth. And people that go into it, man, became the product of that. It doesn't matter how you are, who you are, how you are structured, how you are built, how you are made. It doesn't matter. You just go in there and be that product. And that, to me, is not right.
Bruce Lee, thank you.
Ted, I thank you, man.
You saw the Tai Chi self-defense. You saw all these self-defense in there. I mean, well, I mean, I hate to tell you this, and that is, I mean, if you were there with plus a foreign friend sitting next by us watching that box of Beethoven, Jesus, we will be so embarrassed. Yeah, it's like a free brawl. No, it's not even a free brawl. See, a free brawl is it's at least, I mean, that's Joe Frazier. Yeah. Whereas a man who is capable of using his tools, and who is very determined in his savage, relentless attack. Whereas those son of a bitch are cowardice. I mean, turning their heads, swinging their punch, and after the second round, they're out of breath. Oh, really? I mean, they're really pathetic looking. I mean, very, very amateurish. Amateurish, yeah. I mean, even a boxer, because a boxer, when they concentrate on two hands, disregard how amateurish they are. They do their thing. That's right. They ain't no war. They're really. But whereas those guys go out there, they haven't decided what the hell they're going to use. Yeah. I mean, before they contact each other, they do all their fancy stands and all the fancy movements. But the minute they contact, they just don't know what the hell to do. Yeah. I mean, that's it. They missed and they fell on their asses and they tugged and hold and wrestle and I mean, the whole Hong Kong, they call it 細蚊仔打交. That's the interpretation, even in Hong Kong. Yeah. Can you imagine that? I mean, even those guys see it that way. I mean, what do you think of the appreciation of people here? Yeah, right. Well, period. That's right. The level is still so... So what I'm hoping to do in film is to be just that, man, to raise the level. And, it's a real mission there, really. Yeah, it really. I mean, actually, not only raise the level, actually upgrade. That's right. Gain respect from the Western world. That's what I hope to do, man. Because, like here, I mean, the reason I'm coming back is Warner Brothers wants me to do a television series, but I don't think I'll do it now. Yeah. I'm going to concentrate, in Hong Kong and do it. Yeah. Yeah, start from there. Actually, you might be able to expand it to here, like the Italian picture, A Fistful of Dollars and things like that, if the quality can be uplifted. Yeah. And that's what Well, that's actually more and more, Dan. I mean, it's becoming more and more simple to me as a human being, and more I search myself, and more. I mean. I think I mean, the questions are more and more lifted, and more I see clearly, It's really the simplicity. It is, it really is, man. I mean, what it is that what man has to get over is the consciousness. Yeah. The consciousness of himself. And I always remember you say you have to sharpen your tools, Basic tools. If you've got tools working properly, well, then you can use them. Yeah. You see, I mean, here it is. If you can move with your tools from any angle, then you can adapt to whatever the object is in front of you. That's right. And the clumsier, the more limited the object, the easier for you to pot shot it. That's what it amounts to. That's right. I think sometimes... and more, I mean, really, what it is that it utilizes the body to come to some sort of a realization. Disregard whatever your pursuit happens to be. In my case, is the pursuit of becoming moment to moment, whatever that thing is, and constantly questioning myself. What is this, Bruce? Yeah. Is it true or is it not true? Do you really mean it or not mean it? Yeah. Once when I found that out, that's it. I mean, like my coming back to refuse the television series is one of the major decisions. That's right. That's right. Well, you actually reach the point, you become very, actually quite philosophical. You see the ultimate goal. Well, let me say this. I mean, I haven't as yet been able to control my anger, which I have violent anger. This comes by season, by age. Well, not only that, but I mean, if I have given me the time to just stop for a few minutes, I will be able to control it. But unfortunately, I mean, like, let's say if Lao Dai-Chin is manly enough, instead of going to the newspaper or walk up to me and slap me, that's the end of him. I mean, I have yet been able to turn the other cheek, man. Well, in fact, I think the fact right now, I would say 10 years ago, if they're Lao Dai-Chin, you just say, okay, pick your time. I'm going to just pick the time? Yeah. I will take the time. You shit, I won't even say anything. I'll just show up right in front of his door waiting for him. Yeah. you know.
Well, the fact that you're able right now to see
The
overall things,
first question I ask myself is that, do I have any fear
Yeah.
or any doubt about this man?
Yeah.
I don't.
Yeah, yeah.
And do I know what his intention is? Yes, I do.
Yeah.
Then what the hell are you going to do about it? Nothing.
Yeah, right.
That's it.
That's it. Well,
I mean, it takes a hell of a lot for me to not to do anything than to do something.
the fact you made this decision, it's actually a process of maturity.
That's right. Not maturity. There is no such word as maturity. Maturing.
Maturing.
Damn right, man.
Continually striving to it.
Yes, because
That's right.
when there is a maturity, there is a conclusion and a cessation, man. That's the end. That's when the coffin is closed.
That's right. Yeah. It's always continually...
You might be deteriorating physically in the long process of aging, but shit, man, in your discovery daily is still the very, same, every day.
Well, I think you're actually getting to a point where you remember the two Chinese scroll, 以谋法, 为有法, 谋汉, you're reaching these points, approaching these points.
That's the most important thing. Man. And because when there is a way, man, there lies the limitation.
That's right.
When there is a circumference, it traps. And when it traps, it rots. And when it rots, it is lifeless.
That's right. Well, whatever you said has been making a great impact in my training, in my thinking of the martial art as a whole. I mean, it seems like once you talk to you and so on, work in this, you never would ever go back to what you've been doing like camp or whatever. You reach another level of understanding, and you look back.
Because like man, he's constantly growing.
Yeah.
And when he is bound by a set pattern of ideas or way of doing things, that's when he stops growing.
That's right. Very much so.
Well, I'm lucky.
Well,
that's about it.
Well, actually, you have influenced many people in terms of freedom from their original boundary,
Well, I hope so.
Yeah.
I hope so.
Danny was just excited all over yesterday.
Yeah, he was at my house the night before.
Yeah. So he was really turned on. Yeah. So he doesn't want us to do any more heavy bag kicking. He wants us to just actually in-step a little bit. We're gonna we know the three people yesterday. That's all he's gonna within our little group.
Yeah, because when you use your leg, it is much better to use it to kick at the foam pad or something like that.
Yeah.
Watch out with the side kick on air kicking too much, which is bad for the knee joint.
Knee joint is dangerous, huh?
Well, if you snap it too much, without distance at the end,
That's right.
Well, just think of economical moves.
Yeah.
And all those things.
There's a kickboxing association right in Hollywood Boulevard. I've yet to go see it.
They have kickboxing. You have seen kickboxing.
Oh, yeah, right. I
saw it in Thailand personally.
I think you kill all these guys. I'm
the
sure.
bantamweight, champion.
Yeah.
That was one of the stuntmen.
Uh-huh.
In our show.
Yeah.
Well, the problem with them is that they are the John L. Sullivan with their legs.
Yeah.
No finesse.
No finesse at all. They do actually, I guess if they manage to step in and wrap in the rear of your thigh, and that hurts, and I'm sure that's usually what they try to cause the opponent to completely give up, in that they just actually wrap into it.
Well, not all of them, they do that.
Uh-huh.
But you can do that when you are stationary, you see, but not when you're constantly moving.
That's true.
Man.
Well, I feel like the Japanese has incorporated the sweeping kick on their Thailand's high kick, and then really somehow you can see the Thailand people when they reach their foot is in the air and then try to kick, and the moment they kick, the Japanese boxer will move in and sweep the foot away or make a judo throw, and poor Thai just having trouble to maintain balance because the kick is too high.
That's right. And too obvious.
Too obvious, right. Well,
that's the whole deal, you see. There's no suddenness, no economy.
No something.
That's why,
and there's no actually broken rhythm either. You can see it coming.
That's John L. Sullivan. That's why 80% of the knockout is by hand.
By hand, right. That's why this guy, crazy Raymond Adler, making all those things.
No, shit. You put him in the ring, man. The boxer would just...
Yeah. Right.
So that goes to show you, I mean, you know.
Well,
okay then. I'm packing right now.
Yeah, I know you're busy, and I just want to be sure I at least had a chance to say hello to you.
Thank you. Well, glad to hear your voice again. And I'm selling my house, you know.
I heard Danny told me about, and anything you want me to help you clean or something like that, for instance.
Thank you.
Then let me know.
Well, this time I'm getting the beacon, man. Well, with all this goddamn too much trouble, I'll just let them do it. Right now I'm just sorting out, what I need back there, and I just, I'm going to bring some of my books, some of my clothes, and that's about it.
Yeah, you're going to store the things, and when you come back, you get another...
if I come back, I mean, depending on how the film situation here is, if it is good, then I'm going to buy another house.
Well, I think actually whatever you do over there would have a tremendous impact of your work over here.
Because depending, I mean, how the quality of it is going to be. I mean, I'm not talking about myself alone, you see. I mean, directing, budget-wise, and cinematographer-wise. I mean, a lot of things. I mean, lighting, cynic, everything.
You think is Hong Kong, for instance, shows actually they're quite up to standard, though, is it?
Not really.
Not really?
But they can be. I mean,
given the manpower and the facilities, I think.
I mean, it's the Hollywood of China.
Of China, right.
You see.
They make more films sometimes, I know, in a year than the Hollywood area.
I mean, that's about it,
Now, you actually, in the big boss, you speak up Cantonese, right?
Yep.
And then what do they do?
They just dub it. All the Mandarin picture. I mean,
I see.
All of them.
Are they going to come over here sometime? When?
Yeah, well, it will be. I mean, but I don't know when, because like I told you, I mean, because of his tremendous success, they're really, holding it back,
Oh, I see.
Trying to get the best deal they can, and they're trying to distribute it.
I don't blame them.
Rank, in England, trying to distribute it in all over England.
I see.
I don't know how the deal come about. I opened a film company, recently called Concord. And my partner is, coming over next week, so I should find out more about it.
I see. Good. Well, we are eagerly waiting for this film to be here.
I think you will like it.
You're still in the middle of it, right? That's
I finished already.
I finished already, huh?
I died afterwards.
Oh, well, that's historical figures. You have
No. Huh? I am Falcon God's student.
I see.
You see, I'm not Falcon God himself. That is more interesting because Falcon God is, sort of limited because, you got to follow what the history goes.
Yeah.
So I'm actually portraying his student.
Oh, portray his student.
Yeah, and very interesting because I fought with the Japanese and the Russian and all that. Just like Falcon God. And the fight scenes are, really tremendous. I mean, I like them myself. So you can imagine if I enjoy them. So the regular people, should really dig them.
Do they all fight in their own style? Russian, for instance, like the Russian wrestling.
No. The Russians fight, like karate and all this boxing, wrestling, everything all together. And I bite him and everything. Shit, man, all help. At the end, Joe guy, at the rented area. Remember,
Yeah, that's right.
When dogs and Chinese are not allowed in the park and all that. Remember in Shanghai?
Yeah, I know the history.
Well, exactly. You're doing that, and at the end, I died under the gun.
Under the gun. Yeah.
But it's a very worthwhile death because it means, the Chinese and all that. I walk out and I say, fuck you, man, here I come. Boom, I leap out and leap up in the air, and then they stop the frame, and then like Butch Cassidy and a Sundance Kid.
Yeah.
Except they stop the frame, so I'm in the middle of the air.
It's very honorable.
Yep.
End.
According to the Chinese fashion.
That's right.
And the audience will eat it up.
I know that.
Boy, you should see the film goer in Hong Kong. They're very, very. They're too much.
Too much.
I mean, when they don't like it, they just say, "Deo la ba di mui da," like that.
Yeah.
When they like it, they clap their hands.
You
know, that's what it is.
Well, I think you're going to have more films coming up in that same idea and more higher caliber.
It is.
Yeah.
In fact,
caliber of.
Yeah. The third film, I'm going to Europe to film it. It's about a Chinese, who doesn't know how to speak English and landed in somewhere in a Western country, and where he carries ancient weapon and darts and all that. And then the fourth one is going to be very, very much like the Silent Flute, except it's not, where it shows how a man started off, well, you will see it in the future. I mean, it's very meaningful and entertaining as well.
I heard this, there's a film that, a picture taken over here, something about Chinese Kung Fu and all that, where you're in Hong Kong.
Yeah.
And something about...
it's a television deal.
The Kung Fu.
Yeah, it's called Kung Fu, and I was supposed to do it.
Yeah.
But the network decided against it. And Warner wants me to be in another television series, and I'm glad they decided against it. Because if not, I would have been tied up this year.
That's right. I mean, they're still shooting that yet, huh?
Yep.
Well, when you come back and do another good series, I don't think...
television is really,
it's one-shot job, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, you look at all the television series. I mean, all of them are gimmick.
That's right.
Shallowly treated.
That's very much so.
I mean, you look at it, Mannix, Ironside. I mean, it's all fast money. You know what I mean?
Right.
I mean, unlike a film where you can...
Everything's got this year.
You can put, that's right, man. You can put a few months in it, and work on it.
Yeah.
But not television, man. You got to finish in 1 week.
That's right.
And how can you keep up the quality every week?
Very much so. Yeah.
And people get tired of it.
Yeah, and even so, sometimes you got...
I mean, it's not my bag, you know what I mean, Dan? I mean, it's my personality,
You want to really actually get deep into
right,
the quality of
That's
it. Yeah,
right. Money comes second.
That's right. I think sometimes that could be a very much of an issue.
That's why I disband all the schools of because it is very easy for a member to come in and take the agenda as the truth.
Yeah.
And the schedule as the way.
Well,
you know what I mean?
I think you have to pick a few ones that true die-hard followers that don't go out and this is JKD, because this could really not only.
That's why I tell Dan, to be careful in selecting more students. So we should help him in that area because Dan is naive, at times.
Very true. So that's you can rest on me. I'm gonna sort of.
Great.
I've been working with Dan a lot anyway, so we're real close together. So
great. Well, Dan, what he has to.
Nothing up to
Dan, I told him last time is that he's becoming very stylized. He has all the preparation before kicking.
Yeah.
And it seems like his consciousness is really dominating. Something is bugging. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Well, I think heavy bag kicking has actually too much of the heavy bag kicking has affected him in that he got too much body twisting. Instead of just go right zoom,
and then get the power and the momentum rather than in the preparation prior to that.
And I guess
you can kick heavy bag that way, but you cannot kick opponent that way.
Yeah. Well, his instep, I think he was checking because his toe touching first instead of flat.
Yep.
So he's working on it real hard, and we sort of had a taste of it, and we'll try to not getting too much heavy bag, rather get the suddenness of movement, and just a few of us are going to work on it.
Yeah.
if you have any other, before you leave, any training session or something.
I'll be so goddamn busy. Well, anyway. But, wait a minute.
Want to see you personally, too. So,
okay, man. Okay, so, let's see now.
I'll say it'll be another year or so before you come back. And,
yeah. Well, anyway, I have your phone number. So, if anything should happen, I'll give you a call.
Okay.
Okay?
We'll come over just a few minutes. It's
Okay, Dan.
satisfying.
Great.
Good talking to you, Bruce.
Same here, man.
Well, take care now.
Thanks for calling, Dan.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
I want to ask you a little biography first. You were born in San Francisco, I understand.
Right. 1940, November 27th, Sagittarius.
Ah, a diplomat. And you moved to Hong Kong shortly after?
Yes, when I was 3 months old.
3 months old, you moved to Hong Kong.
Yes.
And you were educated in Hong Kong?
Partly, when I was, up to around 18 years old,
Uh-huh.
I moved back to the States, and I was attending the University of Washington, Seattle.
I see. What was your major?
Are you ready for it?
Yes.
Philosophy, man.
Beautiful. I understand you were a child actor in Hong Kong.
Yeah, I started acting when I was around 6 years old.
What kind of things did you do?
Well, mainly on the important things.
They're very important to me. For instance.
Up to around when I was 18 years old.
Uh-huh.
I did something like, a co-starring role. Other than that, it's kind of like, not that important.
Were you in things with your father?
Well, no, not really. My father was in the Chinese opera.
Uh-huh.
A completely different thing, and I never did like that,
Yeah.
I rather like, to watch the Lone Ranger,
I understand your father was fairly famous in the Chinese opera.
Yes, he was.
Is he still alive?
Oh, he passed away in 1965.
What was his name?
Lee, L-E-E,
Uh-huh.
and then H-O-I,
Uh-huh.
C-H-U-E-N, no, wait a minute, C-H-U-E-N, that's right, Chuan.
I see. How many languages do you speak?
Well, Cantonese,
Yes.
English, and a little bit of Mandarin.
I see. And you make your films now in Chinese, I understand.
In Mandarin, yes.
In Mandarin they're made.
Yes.
I see. Was your mother in the theater too?
No, she isn't.
No?
No.
What is your nationality? What do you feel your nationality is?
U.S., of course, because I hold a U.S. passport.
I see.
And, as soon as I finish with all these, things here,
Uh-huh.
I would like to move, back and, just stay there,
You will move back to the U.S.
Yeah.
May I ask, what is your height? How tall are you?
5'7.5".
7.5. And your weight?
140.
140? And you don't have to answer this if you don't want to. What is your religion?
None whatsoever.
None. Do you believe in God?
To be perfectly frank, I really do not.
Okay. Did you ever have any other jobs besides being an actor?
Yes. I was teaching martial arts.
In the United States?
Yes.
In San Francisco or Los Angeles?
Well, I had 3 schools, one in Oakland,
Uh-huh.
one in Seattle,
Uh-huh.
and one in Los Angeles. And then later on, I just closed them, and just taught private lessons.
What were they called?
My type of martial arts.
Well, you're in Jeet Kune Do?
Yes, exactly.
I see. Is that what the school is called? The Jeet Kune Do School?
Well, actually, I do not believe in school,
Uh-huh.
I don't know whether you have read my Black Belt magazine article.
Yes, I have.
You have. Well, more and more I believe, here is you have 2 hands and 2 legs. And the thing is how to make good use of yourself, and that's about it. Style kind of restricts you to one way of doing it, and therefore limiting your human capacity, you know.
I see. You said in Black Belt that man, the living creature, the creating individual, is always more important than any established style. Does this mean that you change your style all the time in karate?
I mean this. I mean that man is always in a learning process, whereas style is a concluding, established, solidified something, you know?
Yeah.
I mean, you cannot do that, you know, because you learn every day as you grow on.
When did you begin studying the martial arts? At what age?
When I started?
Yes.
13.
13. Did you study with any famous sensei?
Well, I studied under YIT, MAN. Chinese, it's a Chinese art, you know.
That is the name of a man or the name of the art?
The name of my instructor.
I see. And what form of the martial arts was that?
The style is WINT, and then CHUN.
And is that anything, is that a Chinese form of karate?
Well, actually, you cannot call it a Chinese form of karate because karate came after the Chinese kung fu. I mean, it's Chinese kung fu, actually.
Oh, it's kung fu.
Yeah. I mean, all these, karate and all these things came after that.
I see. Have you ever been married? Are you married?
Oh, yes, definitely. I got 2 kids.
You do. How long have you been married?
Oh, I've been married now for around 9 years.
9 years. What is your wife's name?
Linda.
Linda. Is she Chinese or American?
She's American.
She's American. What are your hobbies? What do you do to relax?
What do I do to relax?
Yes.
Work. and work out and doing the things that I want, like taking movies and things like that.
How many hours a week do you spend practicing Jeet Kune Do?
Average around 2 hours a day.
About 2 hours a day.
Yeah.
Is there a difference? You said something in the Black Belt article that there's no difference between a Japanese martial artist and a Chinese martial artist who come to Jeet Kune Do. Could you explain?
Well, you see, like many people that come to an instructor, most of them, they say, hey man, like, what is the truth? Would you hand it over to me? So therefore, one guy would say, now, I'll give you my Japanese way of doing it. And another guy would say, I'll give you the Chinese way of doing it. To me, that's all baloney, because unless they are men with 3 hands, or they are men with 4 legs, there are different ways of doing it. But since we only have 2 hands and 2 legs, nationalities don't mean anything. I mean, these, you can say there are different approaches, We certainly must not limit to one approach.
Yes.
We must approach it with ourselves. Art is the expression of ourselves. Whereas if you go to a Japanese style, then you are expressing the Japanese style. You are not expressing yourself.
You also say that life is a constant process of relating in talking about Jeet Kune Do.
Yes.
What do you mean by that?
Well, you see, because, for instance, when I see a Japanese martial artist, I can see the advantage and I can see the disadvantage. In that sense, I'm relating to them, you see. And man is living in a relationship. And in relationship, we grow, you see.
Yes. But this philosophy that you have, doesn't it go against much of what is taught in martial arts by normal instructors?
Well, I guess because, see, most of them, they are so doggone stubborn,
Yeah.
I mean, 200 years ago, I am taught like this, therefore, if you maintain that type of attitude, I mean, you had it. I mean, we will be still back in, we will never grow because, learning is discovering things. It's a constant discovering thing. Whereas if we follow the old method, it is a continuous repetition of what is being handed down several hundred years ago.
You said that at age 18 in 1940 you returned to the United States. You came back to where, Los Angeles?
In where now?
1958, you came back to Los Angeles?
1959, I went to San Francisco first.
Uh-huh.
And then I went up to Seattle.
Oh, that's right. Then you went to school. When did you become a professional actor?
That's a very funny story. Because when I went back to the States, I really didn't think, I said, here I am with a Chinese. Not prejudice or anything, but really in realistic thinking. How many times in film is a Chinese required?
Right.
And when it is required, it is always branded as the typical, type, you know what I mean?
Right.
So I said, hell with it, However, in 1964, in Long Beach International Karate Tournament, I gave a demonstration. And at that time, William Dozier was doing the Batman and, and he saw it. So, he signed me up, and I did the Green Hornet, and then I went on and, did that Long Street.
So how long did the Green Hornet series last?
It lasted for one season.
That's all. I thought it was longer than that.
Yep.
And then it went into rerun in the Orient and did much better than it did in this country, did it?
Well, in a way, it established me here in Hong Kong.
Yeah. And then in you stayed in the States, did some Long Street episodes, and then...
Did you see the one that I taught James Franciscus?
No, I didn't see that. I heard about it, though.
Chance to,
Yeah.
When you get a chance to, ask Paramount to show it to you.
All right.
Because it's worth seeing, really, because, that one, Sterling Silverphone, him and I, we sit down and we wrote that thing together,
You and James Franciscus?
Yeah. The first one. It's called, in fact, the name is called The Way of the Intercepting Fist. That's the name of the episode.
Oh. Okay.
They asked me, to go back, to do a television series. Warner Brother was committed, they were offering me $25,000 to hold me to do a television series.
This was after Green Hornet?
Do it, Then I went back to Hong Kong in 1971 and did a movie called The Big Boss.
Right.
And the damn thing just broke the all-time record.
Now, Big Boss was produced by Raymond Chow?
Yes.
And the director was Lo Wee?
Yes.
How much did the film cost to make,
How much it cost to make that film?
Yeah.
Very cheap.
What is very cheap?
Around 500,000 Hong Kong, which is like less than 100,000 US.
And how much did it make?
It grossed in Hong Kong alone, around 500,000 US.
Wow.
Now, so it broke all-time record, and then, all the time before, Chinese flicks were kind of like, unrealistic and really, overacting and a lot of these jumping around and, not, well, anyway, all in all, it's not real, you know what I mean? So I came back and I introduced some new element into it, which is like, when I kick, I really kick and, and all that, well...
Isn't that dangerous?
Let me say this. Ultimately, martial art is expression of oneself.
And in your films, do you express yourself?
Huh?
You express yourself in your film?
Yeah. Honestly, and as much as I can, I did that, and then it was a huge success. And then the second...
Wait, before we leave Big Boss, where was Big Boss filmed? Was that filmed in Hong Kong, too?
Oh, it was filmed in Bangkok. And so the next one came out, and it broke the first one by over a million.
Now tell me, who was Lo Wee the director on Fist and Fury?
Yes.
And was Raymond Chow again the producer?
Huh?
Was Raymond Chow producer of Fist and Fury? Who produced Fist and Fury?
Today, we're shooting today on location. And we are called, picture is called Enter the Dragon.
Enter the Dragon.
Yeah, and it's my company that is producing it, and I'm directing it.
And before we leave Fist and Fury, how much did Fist and Fury cost to make?
The Fury is around 800,000 in Hong Kong.
Which would be, what is it?
Over 100,000. Under 200,000 US.
And how much did that gross altogether?
It grows close to $1 million US.
1 million.
Hong Kong alone.
Now, where else will it play besides Hong Kong?
Well, the Big Boss, the first one, all-time record in Hong Kong and Singapore. In Thailand, Fist of Fury is doing the same right now in Singapore. And this one I'm doing now. I mean, it's not yet, released, but I have every inch of confidence that it's going to break the previous three.
Now, Enter the Dragon is your new film, and you're producing this yourself.
Chuck Norris, Chuck Norris.
I know the name.
Well, he is also in it. He's shot the location in Rome.
What is the plot of Enter the Dragon?
Well, it's really a simple plot of a country boy, going to a place where he cannot speak the language, but somehow he came out on top because he honestly and simply expressed himself by beating the hell out of him. And listen, say, I gotta go now because my lunch break is over and we have to start shooting. My producer just say that I don't even have time to eat my lunch now.
Answer me just a couple quick more. Will your films be dubbed into English?
Well, let me say this, that Warner Brother might be co-producing a film with us, and I am planning to do some films strictly in English. And I really have a feeling that it's just a matter of time that it will reach the States.
I see.
The Italian flicks, like Clint Eastwood type of a thing.
And in the article in Black Belt, it said that you had been challenged by a lot of people who wanted to make their reputation by beating Bruce Lee. Is that still true?
Oh, yes. Every damn day. In fact, the one who challenged me became a movie actor himself.
Who's that?
Company beginning to hire him, And of course, somebody, he was punched out by somebody after the film. They got into a fight. I mean, people challenge me, right?
Right.
They don't like it, so somebody else challenged the guy who challenged me. I mean, it's like that type of a thing.
Do you enjoy being an actor?
Yes, every inch of it, because it's my way of expressing myself. I mean, it's a phenomenal way, which is it never happened before. Like whoever got me to sign a contract with another company, they will be getting as a middleman. They will get $10,000 US. Can you believe that? I mean, it's getting to be like I don't even believe it myself. Really?
How has your life changed? Have you changed since you've gotten successful? I understand you're a cult figure in Hong Kong. You're very famous there.
Well, it's changed in the sense that it's like I am in jail. You know what I mean?
Really? Like what?
I am like a monkey in the zoo. People looking at me and things like that. And basically, I like simple life and I like to joke a lot and all those things. But I mean, I cannot speak as freely as I could before because misinterpretation comes in and I mean all kinds of things. But it hasn't changed me basically because I know that in my process of being born and going to die, something happened which is breaking some record. I mean, which to me it doesn't mean anything. I mean, it's just something that happened. I mean, it didn't give me any that I'm proud or I'm any better than I ever was. I'm just the same damn old shit.
Your lifestyle in Hong Kong, do you have your own home or do you live in an apartment?
No, I've just bought a beautiful house. I have to pay that change,
How big a house did you buy?
Huh?
How big is it a big house?
Well, let's just say that it's very comfortable.
How many rooms?
Upstairs there's around 6.
And downstairs?
There's 3.
How much did it cost?
Well, let's not quote prices,
Okay. One thing, in 1969 you had a highly publicized TV demonstration in Hong Kong. Had you already signed the contract to make the film? It was 1970.
Yeah. I did, they dangle in the air, 5 1-inch board, and I side kicked it and broke fall.
Huh?
Suspended in the air.
And, when you return to the United States, will you live in Los Angeles? Or
No, right.
you will live in And where did you live in Los Angeles last time you lived here?
I beg your pardon.
Did you live in Los Angeles last time you lived here?
Wait, I couldn't hear you.
Did you live in Los Angeles when you lived here before?
Yeah, I stayed in Los Angeles since 1965.
I see. Who was your agent when you were here?
I really didn't have agents, in the sense that most of them is, through my teaching that I got my job.
Oh, I see. Through your teaching.
Yeah, I was teaching like, James Coburn, Sterling Philippon, Steve McQueen, and all those guys.
You were teaching them Jeet Kune Do?
Yeah.
And this was when you were acting or before?
It was during and before.
When you were doing the Green Hornet series or before?
During the Green Hornet.
You were teaching them Jeet Kune Do then. Were they good pupils? Hello, were they good pupils?
Well, yeah, they were all right. I mean,
I see. Do you still do that? Or now you're too busy?
Oh, I couldn't because, I have to work every day. In fact, listen, I got to make it.
Okay, on this film you're working on, are you director?
Producer is choosing to kick the hell out of me right now.
In Enter the Dragon, are you the director?
Yes.
And the actor star?
I'm the actor, the producer, and the whole bit.
Did you write it?
Yes, I clean played it.
Are you producer?
Yes.
And you star in it, I see.
Yes.
Okay, when will that be out?
It will be out probably Chinese New Year.
When is that?
Hey, by the way,
Yeah.
how did you come to think of writing an article in Esquire? I mean, how?
I wrote an article for another magazine about karate and heard about you, and then I mentioned to somebody at Esquire, and they liked the idea, so they said, go ahead and talk to him.
Hey, listen, when it is out, could you mail me one?
Yes, for sure. Do you want me to send it to the Kowloon address?
Yeah, send it to the Golden Harvest.
Right. Is that the name of your production company? Is that your company, Golden Harvest?
No, not that one.
What is the name of your company?
For now it will do,
What is the name of your company?
Concord.
Concord, right.
Yeah. Hey, when will it be out?
I hope probably in the fall.
In the fall, huh?
Yeah.
Okay, man.
Very good.
Thank you for calling.
Well, thank you very much.
I gotta make it.
Okay.
Good luck and all that, okay?
Thank you. Goodbye.